Hi, I'm Helen. Welcome to Stories from the Art Room. This is my second episode on how we might avoid creating massive mountains of toxic waste clothing in Ghana by getting off the runway and stop being stitched up by fashion. So we can get clothing that is both sustainable for the planet and much more satisfying for us as individuals. Last time I spoke about how niche Japanese fashion magazines developed from the 1920s, each appealing to specific groups of women based on income, location, age group and style choices. I was so impressed by this approach because it facilitates women to self-identify with others like themselves. I would say over many centuries, various body shapes for women have come into fashion and then gone out. I suspect there's a strong correlation between the feminine shape in fashion and how well the economy is doing. I'd say in the Ice Age, when the human population was small and resources scarce, females of childbearing age were precious, and as a consequence the round, plump, abundant shape was much prized. Again, after the Second World War, during which so many died, Marilyn Monroe's feminine shape was very attracted after that because it represented voluptuous fecundity. And I would suggest her shape then went out of fashion when we humans realised the planet was getting dangerously overpopulated, and so then a very thin female shape came to predominate. We are coming to know now that this morphing of fashion shape is far more insidiously undermining of women than first appears, and can't be dismissed as simply hemlines going up or coming down, as so often is quoted by politicians when talking about the winds of change. What if the Me Too movement were to extend to body shape? And what if women said enough is enough? We won't be dictated to in fashion by one dominant shape of body. We want to break out of that confinement that dictates what is desirable and accepted and admired for the shape that we actually are, irrespective of the current hemline or style. To take this idea forward, I want to introduce my next source of inspiration to change fashion. It's a book called The Body Shaping Diet by Dr. Sandra Cabot, a medical doctor and hormone expert, who is also a diplomat of the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Okay, this is a book explaining how hormones are key to your body shape and what foods you crave and where you put on weight. But what interests me is Dr. Cabot's contention that there are 4 basic body shapes. And here they are. The lymphatic body shape is a cuddly and has a round head and face, and they often are relaxed personalities who are creative. For them, fat is generally distributed evenly all over the body, with the bones not very obvious, the neck short and the limbs rather thick and straight up and down. Cabot says her body appears more overweight than she really is due to fluid retention in the fatty layers of the body. And they tend to crave dairy products and salty foods and are not keen on exercise. Of all the body shapes, this one gains weight most easily. I would say the Sleeping Lady of Malta is a good example of this body shape. Also, have a look at this. An American anthropologist, a professor of art at Missouri State University called Leroy McDormand, has put a new perspective on the so-called Venus statuettes from the Paleolithic era. In a journal called Current Anthropology, he suggests these plump figurines show the consistent realism of being examined from an angle and distance that mimics those required when inspecting one's own body. So if a woman was sculpting herself, when she looks down, the centre and widest points of the body are too high. Her legs are foreshortened, the feet are tiny, the navel is unnaturally large and elliptical, and too close to the pubic triangle. And the buttocks are prominent as a result of being viewed over the shoulder. We have to remember these girls did not have mirrors and rarely saw themselves reflected in water. As I argued earlier, this round body shape was up in lights as the most desirable for probably the longest time because it represented security in times of famine. The android body shape is characterised by a strong, thick skeletal frame with large shoulders, rib cage and muscular limbs, buttocks and thighs. The neck, chest and abdomen are thick and the pelvis is small. So android women are relatively straight up and down and lack feminine curves. They have the strength for sports like bodybuilding, swimming and long distance running. And a good example is Martina Navratilova. Another example from Greek mythology would be the goddess Demeter, who had the power to hold back spring and keep the world in perpetual winter as she scoured the earth looking for her daughter Persephone. The gynaecoid shape is the most common, pear-shaped, with average to small size shoulders, variously shaped breasts, and her typical measurements are 39, 29, 43. The waist is smaller than the hips, giving a feminine appearance with the body flaring outwards with the hips and thighs. The bottom has a tendency to droop downwards, posteriorly over the back of the legs, and the inner thighs may touch together on the inside or medial aspect. The bones of the arms and legs are tapered with fine wrists and ankles, and even if obesity occurs, the forearms and shins remain relatively fine and slim, with weight accumulating on the bust and buttocks, and later on the lower abdomen in front of the pubic bones. Good examples of gynecod shapes are Venus, Aphrodite, Marilyn Monroe, and Elizabeth Taylor. The thyroid shape has a narrow, streamlined body, tall with limbs relatively long compared to the trunk. So their arms and legs produce a racehorse rangy look. The breasts tend to be small and they have boyish, narrow waist, often bony in appearance because the skeleton is clearly defined beneath a thin layer of subcutaneous fat. Nervous types that can be highly strung, finding it hard to relax, workaholics and high achievers, always on the go, so the high level of mental and physical activity keeps them slim. They appear to have abundant energy, but lack the enduring stamina of the android-shaped women. They keep themselves going with quick energy boosts and stimulants like coffee, sweets, chocolate, hot spicy food, cigarettes. And so this type has a propensity for eating disorders. It is the shape that has most difficulty in gaining weight. Lady Diana and Audrey Hepburn are good examples. Next time I will be bearing these 4 templates in mind as a way for women to easily find and link her own body's form to its best fit from the myriad of icons celebrating differently shaped women. This would empower her psychological comfort in the body shape she actually is, and she could create online fashion magazines on the Japanese model that cater for clothing custom made for each body shape. But how could that work? Well, see my next episode for some futuristic creative ideas on that. Until then, bye for now.